It's funny. We see these headlines all the time, right? Global arms race, military spending, all that. But I was looking at some old data the other day, going back to when I was just a kid in the 70s. My dad would watch the news and talk about the Cold War, and that got me thinking, who's actually been making all this stuff? Not just buying it, but building the tanks, the planes, the ships. Back in 1975, it was a pretty simple world, in a scary kind of way. Two giants staring each other down, the United States and the Soviet Union. They were in a league of their own. If you combined everyone else's production, it probably wouldn't have come close to just one of them, my dad's world. Europe was there too, of course. Britain, France, Germany. They had these famous historic companies, BAE, Dassault, but they were like the supporting cast in that big superpower drama. And then the curtain fell. 1991. The Soviet Union just vanished. And what was left in Russia, while it was chaos. The factories went quiet. The engineers left. It was like a whole industrial ecosystem just collapsed overnight. I remember reading about it. Meanwhile, America took a breath. A peace dividend, they called it. Downsized. But they kept their crown, no question. This is where the story gets really interesting, because while everyone was watching that drama in the West, something was stirring in the East, China. In the 70s and 80s, they weren't even a blip on this radar, but they were learning. And then they started building, slowly at first, then like a freight train picking up speed. By the 2000s, they weren't just catching up, they were on a mission to build a modern military from the ground up, by themselves. It's probably the single biggest shift in the last 50 years. They went from being a non-player to being the only country that can truly rival the US in sheer scale today. Just think about that. But it's not just about the big three. There are other stories, quieter but just as fascinating. I think about Israel, a tiny country surrounded. They had to get smart and fast. They couldn't rely on waiting for ships to arrive if trouble started. So they built this incredible, nimble tech industry around defense. Drones, missile defenses, electronics. They turned necessity into a global export. Or South Korea. You think of them for cars and phones, right? But after the Korean War, they were determined to never be that vulnerable again. They started making their own guns, their own ships, and now they're one of the world's biggest arms exporters. They make fantastic, reliable gear that a lot of countries want. They built that from nothing in a generation. And Turkey, same thing. A decade or two ago, they were buying almost everything. Now they have this booming drone industry that's changed modern warfare. They saw a need and just went for it. Then you have the shock of the new war in Ukraine. It's like a lightning bolt through the whole system. Russia's old giant industrial machine is now churning day and night, but it's also showing its age. Ukraine itself is literally building parts of its defense in workshops and garages, a totally different kind of production. And over in Europe, in Germany, Poland, the UK, there's a sudden, urgent clicking of gears. Old production lines are being reopened. Orders are piling up. It's a wake-up call they hadn't had in 30 years. Telegram viewers, the code is TAW181432. The world today, it's a much more crowded, much more complicated field. There's still the veteran champion, the USA. There's the powerful, methodical newcomer, China. There's the former champion trying to make a comeback, Russia. It's not just about who has the biggest pile anymore. It's about who has the smartest tech, the fastest production, the most resilient supply chains. And it's a story that's still being written, right now, every day. Kind of makes you wonder what the headlines will look like in another 10 years, doesn't it?